So Jive and Raven. I don't talk about these two very much, and that's my fault. I'm a big boy, I can admit my mistakes. But you gotta understand why I don't talk about these two, first of all, since it's kinda crucial. Alright, so brief background. Jive and Raven are actually real people. One of my closest friends, who I nicknamed Jive, once joked with me that we would suck at being detectives, which is true. And so I drew her as a detective for shits and giggles, and thus this vaguely detective AU thing was born. I may have gone too far in a few places, I know. Raven is me, and Jive is my friend. And as the writer, I already know everything about Raven because I am her. So talking about her as a character is kind of weird, like some third-person bullshit. I just kind of assume people understand me well enough to understand Raven's character, and I often do the same for Jive by accident, since it's weird telling a story that you and your best friend are in. But Jive and Raven have more to them that I feel I haven't touched on because it's odd to analyze your own personal friendships. But then again, it's also odd to insert your personal friendship you made during the worst period of your life into a story about maladjusted adults shooting at each other for various reasons. Firstly, Jive and Raven are platonic soulmates. This is how the world works. The Monroe Agency, the company they work for, has a rule that dictates every year 2 detectives will be paired up to work together until the end of that year. It's for safety in numbers, as well as having another person to solve cases with, because their city is swarming with crime and general violence. Jive and Raven end up being paired together since Raven is new, and Jive has been working there for a few years. Now, something you gotta know about Jive is that she has trouble with relationships and affection. Jive is oftentimes seen as a brute. She's kind of cold and aggressive with other people, and because of that, lives her life a fatalist. Jive has had no real connections to people for a very long time, and because of her aggressive nature, many are rather scared of her and don't give her a chance. They're slightly turned off by her pessimism and lack of understanding others, when that's not actually true. Jive is aggressive and pessimistic, yes, but she isn't a bad person. She's just bad at forming bonds and has trouble understanding affection and thus showing it to others. But that all changes when she meets Raven, and this meeting is quite literally represented in the show with color finally coming to the screen. Now, Raven is very similar, but Raven's issue is that she cannot trust. Though it's not talked about in the beginning and Jive and Raven's past remain almost a complete mystery. Sorry, sucks to be you. Raven grew up in a psych ward for most of her life. She suffers from anemia and has had so few relationships in her life that trusting people is a no-go. She believes everyone is out to hurt her in a sense and that her condition will only confuse and make people view her as a burden. She's a lot more sensitive. And that's where Jive and Raven form a very true, unwavering, and undeniably genuine friendship. They're both fatalists, and before they met, believed that their lives would be this way forever. They both believed that they would be without friends or family, and that life would always be the same. They both essentially threw their lives to the wind, believing fate would decide their life. But that's not what ended up happening, and it's fortunate that it turned out that way. Jive and Raven bond over their pessimism and similar views on everything. Me and the actual Jive are basically the same person, and while that seems impossible, it really is true. Because of those similarities, they end up finding a friend in each other, but they don't know how to express it. Raven doesn't know how to trust, and Jive doesn't know how to show Raven that she cares for her. But then Heartbeats happens. Heartbeats, episode 14 of the show, and also the greatest thing I've ever created and best episode I've written to date, but that's a story for another day, is really the turning point for their friendship because it shows them actually being vulnerable. I know, disgusting. One of the big things in the episode is how Raven's anemia is worsening because she's trying not to acknowledge it out of fear of Jive noticing her condition and getting upset at her for it. But unfortunately, one of the things that worsens anemia is ignoring it. So she panics and ends up breaking down after her heart momentarily stops. Jive notices and actually comforts her. This episode is important because, well, it is my sole accomplishment of writing, but it also focuses on their 2 main issues: trust and affection. Raven has to trust Jive with the knowledge that she has a medical condition, one that estranged her from her family. And Jive has to comfort Raven and show her that she's safe and cared for even though she has trouble expressing that affection. Their friendship works because of that dynamic. Raven is good at analyzing people and gives Jive a chance, not only because she understands her, but also because she generally likes Jive as a person and how similar they are. Because of that, she doesn't see Jive as a brute or someone incapable of expressing any kind of affection or tenderness, unlike how Jive sometimes sees herself and others see her. And Jive is definitely a little bad with affection, but she isn't incapable of it, and much like how Raven comes to trust her, she comes to realize she can show affection. She just shows it in an unconventional way. They're kind of like the dynamic you see with the quiet, relatively calm character A and character B, who's very protective of A and can and will beat the shit out of you if you give them a dirty look. That's how Jive shows her affection. She's protective, but knows when to tone it down since Raven is there to shake her head and be like, no, Jive, let's calm down before heads are separated from necks. I think that's what makes Jive and Raven work so well as best friends. Raven and Jive are both sarcastic and constantly exhausted and feel like dying 24/7, but they're the kind of friends that hate everyone except for each other. Raven feels like people are out to hurt her. Jive is there to kick anyone's ass if they try. Jive is exhausted all the time, and Raven is there to hand her a coffee and lend her an ear. Honestly, I think that's why so many people I've told about them love Jive and Raven. They're the right combination of the sweet, tender friendship everyone wants to have, but with a very dark twist that still makes them endearing. Like, they're literal murderers and literally run away from their problems in the end and are, in every sense of the word, criminals. But they're like Bonnie and Clyde. Like, somehow you still like them, because even though they're both mildly and or madly unhinged and also morally bankrupt at times, they're messed up together. And isn't that just beautiful? You know, they remind me of this line from the Ballad of Bonnie and Clyde. Actually, here, I'll rework it for you. They'll go down together, they'll bury them side by side. To a few it'll be grief, to the law a relief, but it's death for Raven and Jive. Oh yeah, before I end this video, people are definitely going to ship Jive and Raven. It's inevitable. Two female best friends who are literally willing to die for and save each other when abandoning their city for safety because of the crime they committed together. Yeah, it sounds kind of gay. I get it, don't worry. I have a PhD in reading queerness. My notes on The Great Gatsby read like a dissertation, with color coding. But Jive and Raven aren't gay, and their relationship is purely platonic. Raven has actually shown multiple times in story to have a fundamental lack of understanding of romance and romantic relationships, because just like me, Raven is aroace. Jive is a lesbian, much like in real life. But also like in real life, Jive dislikes romance. Besides, she has enough problems in making connections, romantic or not. It's one of the things they bond over. Jive and Raven are gay, yes, but not for each other. Purely friendship. The only gay characters in the show are Harkin and Olsen. Jive and Raven are the platonic murder duo who have some issues to work through. But they'll deal. Probably. And they better, since nothing would be more awkward than not becoming friends after murdering your boss together.